This is iDesign Lab, a podcast where creativity and curiosity meet style and design. Curator of interiors, furnishings, and lifestyles. Hosted by Tiffany Woolley, an interior designer and a style enthusiast, along with her serial entrepreneur husband, Scott. iDesign Lab is your ultimate design podcast, where we explore the rich and vibrant world of design and its constant evolution in style and trends. iDesign Lab provides industry insight, discussing the latest trends, styles, and everything in between to better help you style your life through advice from trendsetters, designers, influencers, innovators, fabricators, and manufacturers, as well as personal stories that inspire, motivate, and excite. And join us on this elevated, informative, and lively journey into the world of all things design. Today, we're joined by an entertainment powerhouse, Brian Forti. With over 35 years in television and streaming production, Brian is a producer, writer, and director who has worked with networks like MTV, Disney, CBS, and PBS. He's won 6 Emmy Awards and collaborated with icons like Paul McCartney, Shakira, and Prince. As the co-founder of 14 Lane Entertainment and the executive producer at Faena Live, he continues to shape the entertainment world. Let's dive into his incredible journey.
Welcome to the iDesign Lab podcast. Today, our guest is Brian Forti, who we've known for a lot of years. I've known him as long as I've known Scott, and has a very colorful history in the entertainment world, but has a very, I feel like, a lot of influence with design in every aspect of what you do. So I'm excited to kind of...
So first thing, how long has it been? Like 30 years we've known each other?
Gotta
been
be.
working together?
Gotta be something like that, right? I mean, how long have you guys been married?
24?
24, okay.
Almost, yeah.
So it's got to be...
But it's a lot longer than that.
Oh, you're right, it is. It's a lot longer. Yes, you're right, because I remember all the pre-stories before Tiffany.
Well, of course, those stories. But, like, I remember when we were first dating, too, like the whole Pepsi Cola. I want to dive back into all that eventually,
Yep.
but so you guys can continue how long it's really been.
No, it's got to be from the 90s. And, I mean, hundreds of productions
Yeah,
and
yeah,
shows
definitely.
and specials we'd done together.
Yeah. I remember the days Corey James brought you down.
And I just saw him on television somewhere.
Thank God.
Doing something.
Good, I'm glad.
Yeah.
We've all missed Corey James. Haven't been
Yes.
able to find him.
I saw him somewhere.
I think he's in Mexico.
Is he really? He was doing... No, he did some... I saw some production of something with him.
Corey James, and remember you came down, we were doing something for The Box. Do you remember The Box?
Yeah,
Which
sure.
was the first...
With
The first network where you would... It's pretty much the start of streaming almost, where you would
Right
pay...
back in the-
You would be able to pay to see a music video that you would want to see. And that was kind of like the beginning of that whole concept of paying for something.
Were you primarily focused in the entertainment industry through music? Or was it
No,
television?
luckily, but I'm happy we went down the music path. I mean, when I started, we would do anything. That would, when we started. I mean, just to, can I go back a little bit?
Well, let me go
course.
back. Is that
Yeah.
where I started with you was, and I call it the iconic little company, 40 Lane.
Right.
And I say iconic because in South Florida, and even more than South Florida, it was an iconic, well-known
Dynamic duo.
brand.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
with you and Kevin.
Yeah, I think it was the timing. Before where Kevin Lane and I met, before we created 40 Lane Entertainment, was a company called Cable Marketing Systems.
Yeah.
And Cable Marketing Systems was the beginning of buying advertising, being able to buy commercial spots on things like MTV and CNN and USA, which which blew up,
Really?
in the 80s.
Right. Had a
And,
good 20-year run, kind of,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, and then Kevin and I just said, hey, we're doing so well in this cable marketing, creating some pretty cool commercials for like $200, basically no
Wow.
budgets at all. That we said, let's start a production company. So we created 40 Lane Entertainment in 1986, and of course, had to struggle to find work,
In
86.
Miami, too.
1986.
Was just kind of coming back again. There was a resurgence in Miami, I feel like, back in that time,
Exactly.
too.
So I probably met you guys maybe 93.
Somewhere
around
maybe
there.
earlier 90s in that.
And
Because
the
of
reason
Gloria.
and the reason for me searching out and meeting you was I needed some additional assistance in a team or person, but I came into a team
Right.
to help design,
Right.
help design television programming.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the first thing was Today's Health, a series that I had created, and
Yeah.
you guys came in and
Yeah.
pretty much, designed the first few episodes, which
Yeah.
basically became the timeline for that series.
Sure, and the signature look, yeah. Which is funny because to go from what we were doing, Kevin and I, we were doing music videos, basically. That's really what took off for us because
Right.
MTV launched in the 80s. And when MTV launched, suddenly every artist needed music videos, right?
Right.
And Miami became the area to come and shoot them. So whether you're based in Miami or from New York or whatever, they would come to Miami and shoot these music videos. And that is really how we grew until one day the Estefans,
Yep.
Emilio called us
Swiped
and said,
you up.
come in and Gloria's been in this accident and she's going to make her big comeback. And we need somebody to document this. We heard you guys, the two of you were pretty good at what you do,
Wow.
which started that whole, amazing career with the Estefans, which we did, for many, many, many years. And then, you were coming down and we had gone to a couple events with Gloria, stuff like
Right.
that.
Yep.
And then you said, yeah, come up to Boca and start doing some of this, which was totally different than anything we had done before. But we were so into doing new things, and being a series was kind of interesting to do.
Yeah, I remember the first show that you guys helped me design, and it was really you guys putting a lot of the design to it. I don't know if you remember the first episode. There were over 300 episodes that we ended up doing in that series. It was on schizophrenia.
Oh,
I
jeez.
don't remember.
It was a full half-hour episode on schizophrenia, and we shot this scene at the offices of Five Star with smoke machines you guys brought in and
Oh my gosh.
fog machines and how schizophrenia and illusion and
Wow.
how it affects people.
You should play a clip of that. I'd love to see a clip of that.
Yeah, it was
That's
it was
cool.
nominated for an Emmy. It was
Wow.
our first, I think, nomination. We didn't win for that one, but
Yeah.
we had a lot more wins and nominations
So,
after.
some great stuff, Today's Health. And then we did a promo for something where we used your art designer. And he did this,
The Next Millennium.
the Lex
with
Millennium.
Alex Sevilla.
With Alex, and just,
which was amazing for its
Amazing.
time. It still is today.
yeah.
It still is today,
Yeah.
that demo.
Yeah, that series was so cool, was so different, and that demo, that promo we did,
Yeah.
just amazing. He was a great guy, and he was
No,
part of your team.
It was
for
somewhat
many
cutting
years.
edge, and I just recently watched it, and it still is
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
Well, that's
Very.
kind of what's been fun about the podcast is because Scott's background, as well as yours, has a very creative element to it. And obviously with design, which is my world, it's fun to bring them together. So what made you, from the very beginning, decide that your path was the entertainment business?
I would say when I was in high school. It didn't start with entertainment. It started more like audio visual.
Right.
I used to love photography and stuff like that. So when I was in high school, you know how there was always an AV team or
Yeah,
something like that?
yeah.
There was a guy that would
The
go and
yearbooks.
set up the projectors
Yep.
or set up the cameras with
Yeah.
the big video recorders like they used to
Right,
be in the
right.
70s,
Yep.
And I was the guy that kind of led the group that did that. I started a photography club, an AV club, and I think that was kind of what started that.
Your curiosity.
And I
your-
just loved the electronics and filming and that kind of stuff. And then when I graduated from high school, I decided I was going to go to the University of Florida because the University of Florida had an amazing journalism and communications department, and broadcasting was one of their big things. And they had the largest PBS station on campus, WUFT, which allowed students who, were getting up and doing well in broadcasting to work at a station, and that's why.
So that's where you got on the job training.
That's where I started doing a lot of television. I was actually directing at WFT while I was a junior in college.
Was there a pivotal point or moment or person that kind of helped springboard you to take that direction, or
No,
it was just the experience?
not at that
of-
point. Not at that point. There were people later on that sort of pointed, in a direction of
I mean,
the path that I would go on
And
after that.
I asked that because for many, many years it's been, video, film, music, television. Now, which we'll get into, it's live theater.
Yeah.
Which is like a I mean, it's similar, but it's a whole different
Definitely.
gamut.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, jumping into live theater.
Yeah, no, it's and that you're right. We should talk about that, you know, because the television. Basically, I didn't know if I was going to go into entertainment or news, because when you graduate from college, you're going, I just need a job.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out if I could get a job in a TV station somewhere in the United States and just do news, because that's what I was doing at WFP. I was
cool.
directing the news.
Right.
And couldn't find anything, couldn't find a job, and then got a job with cable marketing systems, which allowed at least some creativity.
Right.
You know, I was able to run a production team and do cheap commercials for people who wanted to be on CNN or MTV. And then Kevin and I met together, created 40 Lane, and took off, blew up from there, basically. Especially when we met Gloria and Emilio.
I was just going to say, so you've worked with really incredible artists, obviously, down here in South Florida.
Yeah.
The Estefans are huge. What was the inspiration really there beyond who they were in those collaborations?
Knowing that our work, the design of our work would be seen on a global level.
Yeah,
and that's a whole
pretty
different
exciting.
thing. When suddenly that door opens and the work that you're going to design and create as a team, and there's only 2 or 3 of us at the time, that it was going to be elevated to a platform that the world would watch.
see it.
And not only, and then you'd have huge companies like Sony Entertainment and MTV and VH1 going, those guys look like,
They know
they're
what
really
they're
good.
doing.
They're not a big company. They're not as expensive as a lot of the other production companies with,
Out of
well-known
LA.
directors. So let's give them the work. And then MTV starts hiring us. VH1 starts hiring us. Shakira. We ended up doing
Paul
a lot.
McCartney, Prince.
Paul McCartney, we did.
I mean, we can go on and on the list
yeah.
of people that we've worked
Amazing,
with.
amazing stuff that we all did together, and then some cool things like what is it? I'm bleeping. Fuck.
I always can't retrieve
Oh,
things lately.
Matt Damon and
that was
and
so funny.
Sarah.
I'm
Sarah.
effing Matt Damon.
I'm effing Matt
With
Damon.
Sarah
which-
Silverman, Matt Damon,
which-
and the joke kind of video we put together for Jimmy Kimmel,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, which came from your friend.
Doug DeLuca.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
what a blast that was. And,
Yeah, that was funny.
That was,
And then it blew up as the most viral video.
Do you know how many
Before
we're talking
viral videos
like
were-
200 million views of that.
Before
within-
viral was viral.
Huge.
Yeah.
And then they had to follow it up with
Yeah, the rebuttal.
the rebuttal.
The rebuttal.
With Ben
Those
Affleck.
were
Great
good
shit.
times.
So,
I actually remember going down there too, and you guys were doing that shoot at the Delano.
Exactly.
I mean, and that's what's so fun about what you have created together and done through the years is there is so much change. It's not like your locations change, your venues change. Like you get to experience and see so much.
It's the beauty,
creativity,
I think, of the entertainment business, look,
Right.
which
It's
can
what
be
sucks you
great
in.
or not. I mean, you
And
never
it
know
can
how
suck you in.
You can be sucked into something you don't want to do, and then or you can go down this path of being allowed to design things with all these different artists and all these different production companies that you just,
But all of it is design. It's all creating.
It's all creating.
Something new.
it's all creating.
Yeah.
It goes from what are we going to do? What are they designing? Where you're going to shoot it? How you're going to shoot it? What they're going to wear? How you're going to
The
film it?
lighting,
It's all
everything.
design.
Yeah.
It's all design, and
So-
that's the cool thing.
Is there one moment or one project that comes to mind that was complex, difficult, that you think back about or you can remember about, something that was really challenging?
There was a music video that we did for Gloria and Emilio called "Live for Loving You," and I can't remember. I think it was back in the early, maybe 90 or 91 or something like that. But it was the first video that was all blue screen. And
What's
those
blue screen?
blue screen meaning
Same as green screen.
green screen, same thing as green. It was blue back then, and
They found that too many people had blue eyes, so they changed it to green.
That's funny.
So, because the eyes became
That's
the
a funny
biggest,
tidbit.
the biggest problem.
Yeah,
is
but
with my-
it's basically where you're shooting something and all the backgrounds are created. Meaning, in this case, she was on a train in a car with her dog and sitting on the moon at the end and all. So it was we did it at Limelight Studios, which was a place where we had our offices, a big studio complex down in Miami, and it was easily going to cost $600,000-$700,000 to do it, and I made a deal with the Limelight people to let us do it for super cheap, and they'd get a lot of exposure and experience.
Right.
And it was tough because we had to design all these scenes and not know what they looked like. We had no idea what they were going to look like.
Right.
Technology was
A lot different.
And it was way different back technology.
Right.
And then we get in the edit room and piece by piece we're putting this together, and it was stressful. It was long hours and trying to figure out. And then in the end, it became one of the best videos we ever did. It was actually Sony used it on when they started selling laptop computers. They actually used it as a promo that when you opened it, there was Live for
Did you
Loving
get
You. It was cool.
residuals
No, we didn't
from
get it.
that?
We were always work for hire.
Is there a project you have been most proud of?
I mean, I think a lot of the projects have been. I would say that's one of them. The stuff we did with Shakira. We spent a week with her in the Bahamas and produced a documentary with her. A lot of the documentaries for Gloria did,
Right.
we won ACE Awards back in the
Yeah.
days when ACE
Yeah.
was the cable award that you would
Doesn't
win.
exist anymore.
Doesn't exist anymore.
It's sad.
Yeah, it is. And then we were lucky enough to somehow hook up with Brazilian Globo TV, which is the largest Brazilian network.
Was that the 40 Lane days?
That was still 40 Lane. That was 40
Okay.
Lane days. We hooked
and
up
what
with them.
was that when you did the Pepsi Cola?
Pepsi was either before that or after that. I don't
Okay.
remember.
No, that was after.
Well, it
The
might have
Pepsi
been
show.
That's when I met
probably
you.
right. That would probably be the number one. Doing the Brazilian telenovelas, we would get to travel to Texas, and I spent 3 months in San Francisco, which is fun. Just going
So
there
fun,
and shooting.
right.
We shot this thing with people jumping out of the helicopters and flying with those wingsuits down to their wedding, which was on a mountain and overlooking Los Angeles. And I mean those were cool things. Those were not officially our productions like Pepsi. The Pepsi chart, which probably, like you said, was the biggest thing we ever did.
That's when I met you.
Yeah, Pepsi chart came from London. Basically, the British were doing something called Pepsi Chart. It was a huge show. In
That's around the time of, what's the network Barry Diller did? Whammy?
Yes, yeah. It was actually
The Whammy studio.
Yeah, Whammy Studios in Miami Beach.
Yeah,
It was
Lincoln,
super
on
cool.
Lincoln.
Yeah, on Lincoln Road.
Yeah.
Very
And that had a
cool.
nice
So
run.
cool.
That had a very nice run, yeah. And I think the plan was always the same. He had designed the plan to create a station because he had a low-power TV license. You remember low-power TV license?
Yeah.
And nobody thought they were valuable, those licenses.
Kind of like streaming, you said, like it is
Exactly.
today.
And he had that license, and he says, I'm going to create something like they have in Canada called City TV, which is about the public coming and going, and you can walk by and see the studio. So he put it together on Lincoln Road.
But he had it in a couple of cities, Barry Diller.
Well, I only know about that one. I mean, we sold a couple shows to them, and that was tough. It was not easy because they had no money. He didn't put any money. And then in the end, I believe it was his plan. I meant to ask him this because I ran into him a couple of years ago, but I didn't get a chance to ask him. I think his plan was always to build something and then sell it. He sold it to Univision for $1 billion.
Jeez.
But it was a low-power TV station.
Wow.
Well, he did a deal with the Heat and was
Yeah,
broadcasting
he was the
Heat
first one.
games.
No, not he. No, it was the baseball. I think it was the Marlins. He was the
No,
first.
he did the Heat.
Yeah,
Because we produced
but he
all
knew
those,
how to build the value of something and then dump
well,
it.
that's Barry Diller.
Yeah, it's Barry Diller. Brilliant guy.
Yeah, totally. So as someone who's worked from everything from large-scale music, as we've just discussed, to intimate theater performances, how is the approach to designing a story or telling that story vary? Like how do
You're talking about live entertainment now?
Yeah, well, just in general, how does that audience engagement get translated in each of these different kind of genres?
That's something I had to learn, actually, because being in television for as long as we were in television, 35 years pretty much, right? I got burnt out in television.
It's a lot.
Totally burnt, because
hours.
you're planning, you're
And the
designing, you're
weird
shooting,
hours,
editing, changes, and then it airs and it's gone. And it ended up burning out. I got burnt out, so I took basically, I said, I'm out of here. I went to Sedona, Arizona.
Yeah, it's pretty mellow.
Sedona, Arizona, which is a very spiritual place. There's
Correct.
a lot of energy there, a lot of
Yeah,
shaman
that's
and spiritual
amazing.
people. Because I wanted to, and
Reconnect,
there was
kind
somebody
of?
there, James, which had worked for.
That's
remember
right.
James?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, James was there working for a bio-cybernauts institute, which was into alpha waves and teaching people how to create creativity through their alpha waves to design better things. Went there, did a documentary there, ended up staying there for a year, sitting on the mountains in Sedona, under the stars, doing all kinds of stuff, and everything changed in my life, completely changed. All the things that I believed in before changed. I realized that we have the ability to create whatever it is we want in our life.
It's so true.
I think the universe has designed this place that we're in, this consciousness we're in, to allow you to create whatever you want. It's a matrix.
Yeah.
This is what I truly believe, and this is what I was taught there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting on a mountain it was a Tuesday afternoon one day in Sedona. It was a beautiful day, blue skies. And I started to visualize myself sitting in a theater. And I had no idea. I'd never been and I started to see actors and people moving around and dancing around me. And I focused on that and focused on that. And 2 weeks later, I get a random phone call
The blue.
from a production assistant who had worked on a reality show years before us and said, there's a company called Faena that's opening a new hotel, and they're going to have a theater. They need somebody to run it and to program it and to produce things. Are you interested? I said, yeah, because I had that vision.
Right.
Suddenly,
You had clarity.
I had clarity on what that
Sometimes-
was all about. And
Taking the
So
noise
so I came back to
down.
Miami. I got an interview. I was hired by Alan Faena and Len Blavatnik, who is huge in the business. And I opened the theater that same year. It's been 10 years. And
Has it been 10 years?
yeah, so I had live entertainment was not in my live theater was not in any of my program, but the vision came to me. I grabbed it. I felt it in my heart, and I designed my life to go down that path. And it's just
And
been
you haven't
amazing.
looked back.
Haven't looked back. It's been amazing, and it's to experience live thing, meaning the energy every night is different.
Well, I can
Which
tell
is
you,
such a
just
cool
going back
blessing.
a second before you went to Sedona and just saying getting burnt out. I kind of know why you got burnt out.
Couple reasons.
Well, one of the reasons is that you were doing stuff with me on all the races, going all over the country.
True, but I love-
every weekend to a race.
Yeah, but see, I found that
shooting 10 different videos.
that was one of the most exciting things I had ever done. I do believe it or not.
Really?
Because
See,
I had.
to me, it was like watching paint dry. I couldn't go to those races anymore.
Well, you had done it, but I had recently gotten divorced because
Right.
unfortunately I had gotten divorced. One of the biggest regrets and biggest
Aw.
mistakes of my life. But that was a distraction, going on the road with Patron and doing those races, all those different races, and it was a great escape. But it was also a blast because
Yeah.
you had
So
created a great climb.
I always thought you thought like maybe I did, that it was like,
No, I
oh
loved
my God,
it.
he's sending me to.
I loved it. It was
Okay.
amazing. It was
glad
great.
to hear that.
And and racing became part of my life too. I just I thought it was amazing.
It was a fun time. It was
Yeah,
a
it was
fun
good.
blip. But going back to the Faena, I mean, you
Yes.
literally created a vision from somewhat nothing. I mean, and the whole experience when you do come to the Faena Theater is so design worthy on every sense.
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea. I didn't know what Faena was. I had
yeah.
no idea what that was. And then when I came and I met and I saw the plans of what was being done, Alan Faena is a brilliant, creative
Visionary.
artist, and he opened a hotel in Buenos Aires, and in an area that was totally desolate, and it blew up into one of the most amazing areas and the value of all that land and everything around it blew up
Because of this
because
vision.
of the hotel and the art event place that he created, and then he had the opportunity to build on Miami Beach. And when I saw what they do, because they
stepped
had
it
set
up,
up
the
when I went to
level,
see
I
that, they
feel like.
showed we were in a trailer on Miami Beach, and this mid-beach area, and I saw this design and go, my God, this is...
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
was
when I
next
think of
level.
Faena, I
Amazing.
think of like luxury, gold leaf,
Totally.
Over the
velvet,
top.
5-star,
chandeliers,
Over the
large-
top.
luxury, over the top.
I know.
But artistic, very artistic.
And every
Nothing cheesy in any way, obviously.
I mean,
but
for anyone who hasn't been to the Faena, I mean, just a night of
Shortchanging
just even if you're
yourself.
going out for a drink,
Yeah.
you need
The
to go there just
bar,
to experience
I
it
mean-
and see it.
Yeah, I mean, the experience from the moment you walk in the door with the art on the walls and the way the personnel, it's nothing like a normal hotel.
No.
And then the venues are well designed, the music and the culture.
and they're
is-
warm and they're cozy and they're
Yeah.
embracing.
So
and-
was the theater and the hotel built when you got involved?
Yes, basically the Faena Hotel is the Saxony Hotel. So the Saxony Hotel was the first hotel actually built in Miami Beach in 1947. Before the Fontainebleau, before the Eden Rock, before any of those hotels, the Saxony was built. It was it became the icon of Collins Avenue, basically. And because of the success of that, the other hotel, Fontainebleau, was built. Eden Rock was built. All those other hotels were built. But there was no theater
Magic City.
back in those days. Back in those
Right.
days, everything they designed these hotels to have
Casinos.
everything on the top,
Oh yeah, for the view.
so that for the view. They didn't realize that the top can be the most valuable penthouses. Back in those days, it became the place to go. So when Saxony was emptied, and they decided, and Alan Faena had the opportunity to create a whole new hotel, actually a whole district, 5 blocks in that area. He designed a very artistic space, and he said, let's put a theater.
Wow.
Let's create a theater on the bottom level. And
So you're hired and the theater's already built and
No,
finished?
I'm hired, and the theater is just starting
It's
under
conceived,
construction.
Yeah.
And now all the equipment had been purchased already. They had put down a lot of money. So I had to go through that and supervise sort of all that stuff and the construction. I was part of that. It took a whole year before it was completed. And but yeah, I mean, once it opened, I realized what an amazing place this is. An intimate space that you don't find. We've all
it
been to
takes you
Broadway.
back.
We've
It's
all
like-
been to shows in Broadway. We've all been to shows in Las Vegas, and those are huge venues.
Yeah, you feel like you're
right?
walking back
where
in time.
where you're not close. The experience is totally different than the experience you have at Faena Theater, which is immersive. There's dancers that come up to you, behind you. They're coming from all sides of you.
You're-
So I saw such an opportunity there, and I got so excited about it. And so from there, we started designing shows that were
So Faena's a small venue. What,
160 people
160 people.
seated for like cabaret style.
Right. So very small, extremely intimate. How do you go about designing and creating a show that's in such a small space?
Well, we knew we have a good sized theater. I mean, a good sized stage.
Right.
Which is like basically 24 by 24, with hydraulic lifts. So we had the opportunity to go, change the look of the stage up and down, or have artists come down, walk off, come into the room, come back, go back up. And
So
then
is there choreographers you collaborate
choreographer? No,
with?
and that, of course,
Yeah.
I'm a producer.
Right.
I understand as a producer, as we have always, to put the best team together, to have the best show.
Yep, you gotta have
You
the
bring in the best people in each department, whether it's a choreographer, a costume designer, art director, a lighting designer. That's how you create amazing things. The amazing designs come from the talents of everybody else
the
coming into the
curated
mix.
group, yeah.
So that's what we did. So a lot of the people, when I brought all these different people into the mix and they saw what we had to work with,
The creative
the
juices
creative
probably.
juices just came right out.
Yeah. It's a creative space.
And then
just
you
to be
understand who
there.
your audience is. It's the most important thing. Who's your audience? Like, not back in the days, it was who's your client. Now it's who's the audience.
Yes.
Who's coming in? People are coming to Miami Beach to have fun, to escape.
to escape?
But how did you pick, or how did you select the type of shows that you're doing that for the last 10 years?
We didn't know until we, after
in it.
we didn't know until we were in it. So the first year we just decided we hired a director from Paris who had done a lot of cabaret before.
Mm-hmm.
So she came in and did a standard cabaret show that you would see in Paris called C'est Rouge, basically.
Right.
And and we learned what worked and what didn't work. We could see what people.
So
really
how long would you keep, like when you're saying you learned what didn't work and worked, how long would you guys keep it going?
A year.
A year, okay.
Yeah, but we would tweak along the way.
Okay.
We could see along the way if things
Okay,
were working or
this-
not, and
yeah.
then make changes. And that's kind of
That's-
that's the
that's-
beauty of live
that
entertainment.
is-
You can't do that in a television show,
Right.
really.
Right.
Every night you can change a little bit from the night before.
Exactly.
And perfect it.
And then you can see how it works.
Right.
It's not like you edit, throw it on the air, and you got to wait a couple weeks and see how.
It sticks.
Does it
Right.
work?
So you
Yeah.
get to,
That's the beauty of live entertainment.
okay.
So as the years grew on, I mean, we've done now 10 years of shows, so 12 shows maybe over these 10 years.
And how has the cast evolved and that initial group of, talented people that you put together? Has that?
The amount of people now that are banging on the door, coming to see me,
Right.
calling me constantly to be a part of the show. In the beginning, it wasn't like that. It's like anything. You have to build something.
Yeah.
You mean to work on the
You have
shows?
to work on the shows and to be a part of the
it.
shows. A lot of the talent now that we get, the dancers, the singers, they didn't know if we were going to make it, so they didn't want to take a chance. They'd rather take a chance on a cruise ship, go out for 6 months, or take a gig in New York or in
That's
Vegas
so
or something like that. They
crazy.
didn't know until as the years went on, and they could see. Now every cast and every team that is in a production is like a family now.
Right.
I mean, they get paid very well. We treat our talent very, very well. We treat our crew members very, very well. And that creates an environment of everybody really doing the best that they can. And it shows in the production.
It really does.
It shows in the production.
Yeah.
And that's
And
what
I got the opportunity a few years ago to do a deal with you and bring in a comedy show that I shot for Netflix.
Yeah.
That I had a great time
Oh, it's great.
in that facility doing that.
Yeah.
And like you said, the equipment that was purchased before, you started was phenomenal equipment that was purchased.
Yeah. It was a fabulous comedy show, Siri, where it was a couple shows we had done, I think, right? Jake?
Yeah, we did a few shows.
Yeah,
there.
it was great, and it was from that experience that I realized that, and then the Prime Video. After that, Prime Video did a series called Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yep.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
that
we're
one.
familiar with
And
that.
they came and saw the theater and said, "Oh my God, this is great!" Because she Mrs. Maisel was coming to Miami.
Right,
She was
the
to have an
comedian.
experience. Yeah, so she was going to come and do some scenes. So
Loved
we
that.
made a deal, and they made the theater look like it was the '60s because that was the time
Right.
period, which was very cool. And I realized from what we did with your production. And Mrs. May, we could do comedy here. It's a great venue for comedy, upscale comedy, not like the venues you go, improv, and all
Right,
those other
right,
places you
not
go,
like
which,
the backdoor
luxury
things, more.
So from there, we launched
The
comedy.
shows that we shot did very well on Netflix, and Netflix, one of them still is highly still promoting and pushing it.
Yeah, because of the art direction in the theater. It looks amazing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of places you go, especially comedy shows.
Yeah, they're
Comedy
like
venues,
dingy
they're
and-
nothing. They're
yeah,
like
yeah.
small stages with no backdrops or something
Right.
like that.
That was going to be one of my next questions was really when you do think of Faena, we mentioned it's very luxurious. It's extremely a rich experience. How is that luxury intertwined with the production?
Every production has to maintain the level. Alan Faena is very involved in every production we do, which means
He's hands-on.
hands-on. Yeah.
That's good. Nice to hear.
And because it's his brand, and he values his brand, and his brand is all luxury, class, artistic, and so the productions have to reflect that. We can't be anything cheesy, or the costumes that we have to be amazing looking. The backdrops, the visuals that you see around the theater have to be at a level that you would expect. And people now that they've been coming to Faena, they expect a level because now they understand, what it's all about. And we could never drop the ball on that. We'll be called out on that immediately, and both from Alan and from the public, the guests.
Right. So you have 2 new productions happening now there. Is it difficult to have 2 different shows going simultaneously as far as setting up and pulling down and
It is if you
different
try and do them at the
produce-
same time, meaning launch them at the same time, because
Okay.
launching a show is It's all those rehearsals and all the technical designs and all those things that we have to do. You can't do them at the same time because it's way too much work. So we did these separately. Fortunately, we're doing a show called Carmen. Carmen is an opera from the 1800s. It's a love triangle.
An opera.
An opera. It's based on
So
an
it's
opera.
it's not burlesque.
No. But the story of Carmen was originally an opera. An
Okay.
opera, and it's been made into many movies.
I've heard of it. Yeah, Carmen.
And we decided we were going to do a reimagined version of it for Miami Beach, cabaret burlesque style.
Yeah, inject
So
a
we
little
did.
bit
So
of-
it basically, it has a lot of the Spanish from Spain music.
Okay.
The feel, the costumes are all look
Little
like you'd be in
flamenco-ish
in Spain and Madrid, except it all has very sexy edge to it, and it's a combination of popular music that has been remixed in sort of
I love it.
Spanish ways. So very passionate, very sexy, a very artistic production. We had launched that last October, and then in this past few months, at the beginning of the year, which was tough because it's our busy season.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody comes to Miami Beach in January, February, March. So we decided to launch another show, and it's called Retro. And Retro stars Rocky Lanes, which is the singer that was in the Allura show, which I believe
She was
you guys
fabulous,
came.
right?
She's fabulous, and one of our best shows, one of our biggest and best shows ever. And Retro, we decided because she's so good musically that we were going to do this
Build the show around her.
musical journey from the days of Motown through the 60s, the 70s, and 80s. So through disco, through funk, and pop and rock. And we launched it about a month ago, and it's doing fantastic.
And is there dancers and the same?
Dancers.
All of it.
Dancers all around you. Catwalk that comes out into the middle of the audience, so you're looking right up into the dancers, and they're interacting with you. Rocky's interacting with you, and because it's the music that anybody who's come through the 70s and 80s, I was born in the 60s. I remember the music, but disco was my big days.
Of course.
I mean, we're talking
and
great,
that goes along
great
with the
disco
vibe too of the Faena.
and everybody's dancing because we're talking about Donna Summer, we're
Ugh,
talking
love.
about Cher, we're
Yeah.
talking about in the area Diana Ross and the Supremes, and then we're talking. It's just an amazing mix of music that Rocky performs, and everybody is singing because it brings back all those
Right,
feelings. Music
joyful.
is timeless,
Yeah.
and it takes you back to a time when you hear those songs of where you were back in those days. And
What's the process that you go through to design a new show? Is it one person who comes up with it? Is it?
No, it's set. We take the top creative people who are very good at brainstorming and creativity. How about this? How about that? And we sit around the room, we toss around ideas. And
How
then
long does that process take?
Weeks.
Really?
Weeks, sometimes months. And then we design. Then we have to sit down and design the look, which takes a lot. What's it going to look like? How are we going to design the clothing? What's the
So how far in
so then
advance are
then-
you working on the next one? When
months usually? So we will open a new show in October. Retro will actually go to the end of the year, and then most likely go to our new theater in New York. That's opening up in
okay,
the
so
spring
you'll
of
just move it.
2026. We'll open a new show on August or September of this year. And,
So you're probably working
So
on
we're
that
starting
now.
to figure out. Right, we're getting ideas now to figure out what we're going to do.
Are there any elements that kind of stay within each production? Or
Specialists that do like aerials.
I was just gonna say
Things
yeah, like
that people
Cirque
do
du
in the
Soleil
air,
thing.
because we're one of the few theaters and one of the venues around that can do aerial, where people are swinging.
And
or-
I noticed when we were there, they're actually doing it. Like the people who are doing the aerial, it's all like real people doing
Oh,
it.
yeah.
It's not even mechanical.
No. A lot of
from going up.
yeah,
and
no,
down,
it's
Yeah.
pullers.
swinging.
It's pullers. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pullers
Yeah.
on the side. If you go to Broadway or something, it's those they have motors that are doing
Correct.
that.
Yes.
We don't do that. We
No,
we
it's
have,
such a-
which adds sort of more of a flow. Believe it or not, it's
I
not
am-
as mechanical looking when you have somebody who's lowering and raising.
Yeah, it's
and usually that puller is he's dressed in costume. He's
Right.
part of the production.
Yeah,
as
I
well.
noticed that in just
Yeah.
the last show we went to.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things we design, is to make sure that even those people who are coming into the room, whether we're doing a fire effect and we need people to be there just in case something happens, they're all in costume. They're all designed to be part of the cast, which because they're 3 feet from you.
Right.
You're going to see them.
Yes,
you can't.
exactly.
So that's, it was all
Are
part of
there
it.
any changes to like the venue itself for each of these different shows? Was it more of just the performance?
Equipment, we buy more equipment, more cool, because every year something new comes out, more
Right.
lasers, more smoke machines, more bubble machines, stuff
And
like
the
that. So usually it's a lot of
screens, too.
electronic. The sound consoles have, that we just replaced all our sound console because sound design is such a big thing in live entertainment.
Right.
So when you have a board that can create effects within the room, right? Because if you're trying, if you have lightning or you have whatever, like thunder or some sort of sound effect, you want to be able to spread that around in some really cool way. So we bought a board recently to help elevate our design of the sound experience. Same thing with lighting. Lighting, electronics, constantly changing what you can do and can't
evolving.
do. And so, electronics are a big part because it takes the design of what you're doing to a whole nother level.
So most of these shows have a decent sized cast. You have a decent sized crew. But, one of the things that I recognized when I did the show there for that week for the comedy shows is backstage, you don't have much space.
No.
Just like your theater is
So there's
small.
not a lot of hanging out.
Yes, it's a tight.
No, it's
So like the show that we went to, and that was one of the things I was sitting there thinking about while I was watching the show was like,
it's a struggle.
Where
It's a
are
struggle.
they? Where's the dressing room? Is there?
They're right behind, but
people?
because
but it's tight. It's
because
like
I
two
said
little
because
dressing
it's
rooms and
the Saxony
Right,
Hotel.
what's an
the first hotel in
Yeah.
Miami Beach? Those are historical hotels. You
Yeah.
can't
Thank goodness you can't touch
knock them
like-
down
right.
and build
Right.
new stuff. There's a law that says you cannot do that. You have to
Right.
use the structure
I love it.
and go inside and recreate a redesign inside. Doesn't make more space, so
Correct.
there's not much space backstage, and
So
we
what
do.
does the
Luckily,
backstage look
luckily
like in
we
the
have a
midst
green
of
room.
a
You should.
show?
You'll have to come
that'll
backstage
look-
next time,
but
but it's
that'll-
very small. Except the green room and the dressing rooms actually are very nice because it's right out the back of the stage, and we're able to make them look really nice and comfortable in there. So,
But very-
storage space,
very
nothing,
tight.
nothing, no storage space,
No.
very tight, barely anything.
So where does like all the set design stuff reside? It just stays
In hallways in the loading dock, and we have to bring them in and out and stuff like that. It's not easy.
I mean, it's design and just how you handle all that.
Exactly.
And are you
Totally.
there every night? I mean, are you there conducting this effort?
I'm there.
now,
I'm
or-
there if we launch a show, and it's still we need to get it to where it's totally in sync, whether it's the cast or the backstage crew. I'm always there for that. Once it's in sync, I don't have to be there all the time because I have to move on and think ahead. My job is about what's next, as well as make sure everything's what's happening now is going well. Are the review's good? Is everything strong? Are we on budget? Are we making money? But it's also what's coming up. I have to design
Right.
what's coming in 6 months.
Right.
What's in 8 months. So that's a big part of so I can't be there all day and all night. So
Right. You got to pick or choose.
I mean, for anyone who's listening to this podcast, if they're in South Florida, it's a night that they should go experience. And if they are listening somewhere else and they plan on coming to South
yes.
Florida, it's something they should put on their agenda to go do.
Yeah.
Because it's like no matter when
It's
you're
definitely a special experience.
Yes.
It is, and I appreciate you saying that.
No,
we get a lot of obviously the locals now after 10 years. The locals that live in Miami are now coming for all their special occasions. The tourists have all heard about it, So
Yes.
anybody who's come to the hotel, or at least on Miami Beach, all the concierges up and down are always recommending that they come and see the show. But now, basically,
But even
the amount
if
of people we
but
get from
even- but
Boca
even-
and West Palm now
Yes, that's what
that
I
are
was just gonna
that are
say.
driving down because. Again, the experience is
definitely an
completely different, and
experience.
it's worth the drive.
It is.
A lot of people come down and spend the night. They'll just
I
come
know.
down and
It's a good
spend the night
excuse to get
just
down
to
there.
go down to Miami Beach and
It's true.
staycation kind of thing. When
Exactly.
you're in town but people now, it's amazing that people are planning their
first time-
trips. They're planning their trips to come to Miami Beach, stay at or somewhere close. Go to the hotel. Go to the theater, or go to the Sobe Beat Wine and Food Festival. Go to the International Boat Festival, or all those other things. So they're planning these mega things. Always finding the theaters coming included now, which is great. It's taken 10 years to get to that point.
The first time I saw it, the first thing that I thought about was Moulin Rouge in Paris.
Yeah. Which I've never seen. Have you seen it?
Oh yeah, we've been. We've been to shows there, and
But it is in that same genre, and it's not only in the same genre, but it's that same experience of when you're at a destination, it kind of goes hand in hand.
Like in Paris, Crazy Horse.
Crazy Horse, yeah.
Crazy Horse, which
the original Crazy Horse and Moulin Rouge are like
next door.
Yeah,
next door to each other.
Exactly. And Crazy Horse, which I'm a big fan of, because in the past they've made a lot of changes to the way they do the shows now. And they have a very small venue, the new venue in Paris. It's not big. It's nice, but they use the stage and they have conveyor belts on the stage, which means they can have talent sort of going by in 3 different levels, and up and down and back and forth.
The original.
And they use the visuals on the screen as amazing. And I'm a big fan of them and what they've done. And same thing. All the Crazy Horse people come to Faena and check out our show.
Well, there's the Crazy Horse in downtown, in Paris.
Right.
But then there's the one that's near the Moulin Rouge, which is a little out of Paris. It's in Paris, but a little bit out.
Yeah.
They both have that moving stage.
Which is cool.
But going to the original one, and actually going to Moulin Rouge is...
I bet. Yeah. And I hear Moulin Rouge in New York is really good. The show's in New York now. It's supposed to be really, really good. I haven't seen it. But yeah. Those are great shows, and the design
they are great shows. They really are.
The choreography, the costumes.
I know
the whole design.
The
of the
whole
shows,
design of it,
and in New York,
it is an
it
experience.
could go for 5-10 years. Those kinds of shows. We won't do that.
So your goal is literally every year you're going to be pretty.
We want things to completely change all the time.
Well, you need to.
We need to.
You need to.
Yeah. We're not New York. Miami Beach. We're not New York. New York can maybe have, because so many people,
are
big population, a lot of But Miami Beach and the Faena mentality, the whole the culture of Faena, is to experience something new every time you come.
Well, and it makes people want to come check out the new one because you had such a great night when you were there for the last one.
Right. Yeah, and bring your friends.
Correct.
That's the best part of it. People just come and bring their friends.
Yes.
All the time. So they're seeing the show 2, 3, 4 times.
So what do you like better, television production or live theater?
That's like asking you which kid do you like, which child do you like better? There isn't. I loved the journey I had in the days of television production. From working my way up as a production assistant all the way to a producer and a director, and the experiences that I had with your teams and my teams and all the clients we had. It's amazing. I mean, it's and you learn so many things, and you experience such great things that you'll never forget. But now that I'm into live theater, I love it at this time in my life. I call it the 3rd chapter of my life, in a sense. That it's something that every day I can do something different and new, and I can feel the reaction of the guests right then and there, and not have to wait months for the show to air, whatever. And so there's a beauty in both things, and I really respect and happy about where I am now and where I was.
And what a special niche, really. I mean, not everybody gets to curate something of that magnitude.
Yeah. Well, again,
I
learned that we can design our lives in any way.
Yes.
And I learned this on the mountaintop in Sedona, Arizona, because the energy came to me. I realized you can create anything you want.
I know.
Anything you want.
Our mind.
You have to feel it in your heart. You have to believe it and feel it. If you can do that, anything is possible.
It's true.
I believe that's the way the universe designed our consciousness and our life.
I know. It's amazing that you got to that point, right?
Me too.
So if you
could, not like that in the early days.
If you could tell young producers or directors, people who want to, create a career, like a career that you are still in, what piece of advice would you throw out to someone?
Believe in yourself. Have the confidence that if you focus and you work hard, a lot of people that are in the business now or are coming into the business now think they can come out and get huge salaries right out.
Right.
And I don't understand how. I don't know that comes from social media influence, or whatever that comes from.
Right.
But it's not how we came,
Right.
and we worked hard. We worked we worked really
Yeah,
hard
long
every day,
days, yeah.
long days, and it was
grunt
those
work, too.
and those people in the positions above us recognized that and saw the talent, saw the hard work, and that's what elevated you slowly up in the business. And your talent will always come out if you believe internally in your heart that that's what you're supposed to do, and you can feel it will come out. And as the opportunities, the doors open, that just keeps coming and coming out.
It does
So
just
don't
keep
give up.
coming.
You just
Never,
have to
never stop.
Don't stop and work hard, and don't think that you deserve something. The beginning, as you start, you have to work. You have to work for it. You have to believe in it. You have to work hard for it.
I think that's
Yeah.
a great message.
So we like to wrap up this podcast by asking our guests a couple of simple little questions about design.
Okay.
So the first thing I'm going to ask you, I really shouldn't ask you this question
'Cause
because
I'm sure
I
we
know
know
what
the
the answer's going to
answer.
be. But what would be your favorite hotel for the design be?
Would be the Faena
Faena.
Hotel.
It's actually
and actually, the
one of
Faena
mine.
Hotel in Tulum, which is going to be an amazing design. You guys will have to come and visit and see it.
I can't even imagine that's
Just
too
the design. Remember, because the Faena Miami Beach
intertwining.
is an existing structure, but
Right.
but the other ones are all going to be built. The New York is also an existing structure that's being redesigned, but from there on out are all new. So that's going to open up. So the Faena Hotel designs are just amazing.
They really are.
And it does have an incredible design.
Yeah.
In every aspect.
And what's the
everywhere you walk.
background of the woolly mammoth? It's
It
an art
Which is a
piece,
huge statue.
but-
with
Yeah,
glass
on the
case.
property, on the
Right.
property,
On the
near the
property.
pool.
which is a great Instagram.
It's a famous artist.
It is.
It's a famous Dante. I forget his name now. But it was
remember
bought
either.
by the owner, and I should know the name. I don't know the name, but it's one of the icons on the
Right.
property. People just, and even if you're walking down the boardwalk in Miami Beach, you're not actually on the property. You can see
still-
it when you look inside, and people stop. Groups of people stop. It's a gold. It's 18 karat gold. The entire mammoth is gold.
So do they have a design element like going like that in Tulum and in
Yes.
New York?
Yes.
They have.
Yeah, yeah. I can't tell you what.
I know. I want to see. Okay. What about favorite restaurant design wise? Miami's got a lot of good ones.
I like restaurants on the water.
I know.
We don't have one. We don't have a restaurant. We have nice restaurants outside, two nice Los Fuegos and Pau, great food. But I love being on the water. So there's actually a new place called the Palm Club on it's on 79th Street. It used to be called Shuckers. It's been redesigned as a club by a big New York developer, music producer, designed this new place called the Palm.
I love the name of it.
Beautiful. And it's the music at night, it's music. So I love sitting outside on the water. To me, to be on the bay or on the ocean.
Live
And we
music?
are like
Live
entering
music.
in the most gorgeous weather
Yeah.
season for us.
Yeah,
here
see,
in
and during the
Florida.
winter, it's the best
It's
time
the best
sit outside.
time.
During the summer, forget it. It's
Yeah.
too hot, but
That's awesome.
So I'm going to ask you a question. It really doesn't have to do with design, but you could look at it as design. Is there an event, a favorite event that you would love to attend or you've attended?
I used to love going to the races. To me, the being in those races, being in the middle of the race, being in the pit zone and
Right. Where the action.
That's
the
back
action
to
was.
energy too.
That energy. I mean,
Yeah.
it was such an amazing experience. And then going back to the hospitality areas, which were all these elaborate places.
They're all
amazing food
experiences.
and those are great experiences. I mean, big races like that are tremendous. Big golf tournaments. I love going to the golf tournaments.
Really?
when
So have you become a
yeah.
golfer?
I try to play golf. I don't have much time to do it, but I love when, I'll go to a tournament. But it's always the best time is when you're invited into a suite.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where
Especially
the
the
parties
golf,
are. Yeah.
that's the whole thing, or a big game, or the Orange Bowl, or some big event or something like that. I remember when we were in Indianapolis 500.
Yeah, that was
Indianapolis
a fun.
Indianapolis 500, and you know
in
we
the pits during
in
the
the pits
race,
during
at
the race,
Indianapolis
walking on
500.
In
the
the
brick,
rain, too.
walking
Rain.
on the bricks,
Correct.
yeah, which was the famous. You know, tell me that wasn't. Those are great times. Amazing.
Yeah.
No, it's one of my highlights in racing, and I've had a lot.
Yeah.
Was the Indianapolis 500.
Amazing.
Absolutely standing and being in part of the team, the pit team, right there.
Yeah.
While the race is happening.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that when I experienced that, I actually stood there, looking around, going, "What the hell am I standing in this pit for?"
And you're looking.
And
up
as a
and
kid, growing up, every Indianapolis I watched with my dad, you know.
Yeah.
And here I am now.
What-
I was standing there.
It's one of those things you just never forget. You know,
Or being at a drag race
which is
when the car, you know,
Yeah.
takes off and you're literally 3 feet from the car.
and your chest is caved in and your ears are blowing up.
Yeah.
That's just another experience that just physically it's hard to handle that because
Correct.
you remember how loud and
Oh, yeah.
that made
10,000 horsepower.
my God, it's incredible. But great times. Great times.
Great
We had a
times.
lot of fun.
Well, we appreciate you coming in,
Thank you.
spending some time with us. It's always a pleasure.
You've had
and
such
great to
an
see you.
incredible career.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm
We
very-
plan on coming back down to the Faena
Please,
I
very
know.
soon.
please do.
We'll be
Anytime.
there
See
soon.
another show.
Absolutely. You'll be my guest.
We have to see Carmen
Please come see.
or the other one.
And thank you for bringing me today. I enjoyed this.
Me too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
iDesign Labs podcast is an SW Group production in association with the 5-Star and TW Interiors. To learn more about iDesign Lab or TW Interiors, please visit twinteriors.com.